Park Do-hoon never wanted to be special. He was just a simple military officer who followed orders and did his job. When Earth Command told him to serve at the embassy on Valoria Prime, he packed his bags and went. That was 6 months ago. Now he stood in the most beautiful building he had ever seen, wearing his dress uniform, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. The Valorians were not like humans. They stood almost 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that shone blue, like the ocean under moonlight. Their eyes glowed soft gold. And when they smiled, their teeth were sharp like knives. They were warriors. Fighting was their religion, their art, and their way of life. For 3,000 years, they had conquered star systems and built an empire that made other species tremble. But humans did not tremble. 2 years ago, when the Kroth Collective attacked Earth's colonies, humanity fought back with a fury that shocked the galaxy. The Valorians watched with great interest as these small, soft creatures refused to surrender. When humans finally won the war, the Valorian Empire sent an invitation. They wanted to talk. Do-hoon was one of the first humans to live on Valoria Prime. His job was simple: watch, learn, report. He was not a diplomat or a spy. He was just a pair of eyes for Earth Command. Most days, he ate strange food, learned a few words of the Valorian language, and tried not to embarrass humanity. Tonight was different. Tonight was the Festival of Crimson Moons, the most important celebration in the Valorian calendar. The Queen herself had invited all ambassadors to the royal palace. Do-hoon had never seen anything so grand. The walls were made of crystal that sang when wind passed through them. Thousands of Valorians filled the great hall, their blue skin decorated with glowing paint that told stories of their ancestors. Do-hoon felt very small. He stayed near the edges of the room, holding a drink he was afraid to taste. The other ambassadors from different species kept their distance from him. Humans were still new to galactic politics. Many aliens thought they were just lucky to beat the Krath. They would fade back into nothing soon enough. Do-hoon did not care what they thought. He just wanted to survive the night without causing a diplomatic incident. That was when he saw her. Princess Yuna stood near the center of the hall, surrounded by admirers. She was tall, even for a Valorian, with skin that shone darker blue than the others. Her golden eyes burned with an intensity that made Do-hoon's heart skip. She wore armor even at this celebration, decorated with gems that represented her 200 military victories. She was the Queen's only daughter and the greatest warrior of her generation. She was also clearly bored. Do-hoon watched her politely dismiss one noble after another. Each one approached with gifts and flattery. Each one left with disappointment on their face. The princess did not seem interested in any of them. Their eyes met for just a moment. Do-hoon quickly looked away, his face growing hot. He was nobody. She was royalty. There was nothing to say between them. The night continued. Do-hoon ate some food that tasted like spicy honey and listened to music that sounded like thunder and rain. He was starting to relax when he noticed something wrong. A servant was moving through the crowd toward the princess. Nothing unusual there. But Do-hoon had spent years training to notice small details. The servant's hands were shaking. His eyes were fixed on Yuna with too much focus. And beneath his simple clothes, something bulged at his waist. A weapon? Do-hoon did not think. He moved. The assassin was fast, pulling a blade that crackled with energy. But Do-hoon was faster. He crashed into the princess just as the blade swung down. They fell together, rolling across the crystal floor. The blade missed by inches, cutting through the air where Yuna's neck had been. Guards reacted instantly. The assassin was dead before he could swing again, cut down by a dozen energy blasts. But Do-hoon did not see any of that. He was lying on top of the princess, his heart pounding, his mind blank with shock. Yuna stared up at him with those golden eyes. She did not look grateful. She looked furious. "Get off me, human," she growled. Do-hoon scrambled to his feet, offering his hand to help her up. She ignored it. rising on her own with the grace of a predator. Guards surrounded them both. The music had stopped. Every eye in the hall was watching. "I am sorry," Do-hun said. "I saw the weapon. I just reacted." Yuna studied him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Then, she turned and walked away, without a word. Do-hun thought that was the end of it. He was wrong. The next morning, 2 royal guards came to his quarters. They did not explain. They simply told him to follow. Do-hun obeyed, his stomach tight with worry. Had he insulted the princess by touching her? Would there be punishment? They led him through corridors of crystal and gold, past ancient statues and hanging gardens. Finally, they reached a door taller than any Do-hun had seen. The throne room. The doors opened. Do-hun walked inside. Queen Malith sat on a throne carved from a single massive gemstone. She was older than her daughter, but no less impressive. Her 4 arms rested on the throne's arms, each hand covered in rings that represented her conquests. Her eyes were not gold, but deep red, like dying stars. She watched Do-hun approach with the patience of someone who had lived for centuries. Do-hun stopped at the proper distance and bowed low. His training had prepared him for this, at least. "Rise, human," the queen said. Her voice echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. "Look at me." Do-hun obeyed. He met her red eyes and tried not to show his fear. "You saved my daughter's life," the queen said. "Do you understand what this means? In our culture, I believe it creates a debt, Your Majesty," Do-hun said carefully. "But I want no reward. I simply did what was right." The queen smiled. It was not a warm smile. "You misunderstand, little human. The debt is not yours to refuse. It is ours to pay. And there is only one way to honor such a debt." She stood from her throne and descended the steps toward him. Each footstep rang against the floor like a bell. She stopped just in front of him, towering over his small human form. "You will marry my daughter," Queen Malith commanded, "and you will give me strong grandchildren." Do-hun's mind went blank. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "This is not a request," the queen continued. "This is the law of our people. You have saved royal blood. Now that blood is tied to yours. Forever." Behind him, Do-hun heard the throne room doors close with a heavy boom. He was trapped. Princess Yuna had never felt such anger in her entire life. She stood in her mother's private chambers, her 4 hands clenched into fists, her golden eyes blazing with fury. "You cannot be serious," she said through gritted teeth. "A human? You want me to breed with a human?" Queen Malith sat calmly by the window, watching the 3 moons rise over the capital city. She did not seem bothered by her daughter's rage. "The blood debt is clear," the queen said. "He saved your life. Our laws are ancient and absolute. Then change the laws. You are the queen. Some laws exist for reasons beyond politics, my daughter." Malith finally turned to face Yuna. "Sit down. There is something you need to know." Yuna did not want to sit. She wanted to break something, but she had never heard that tone in her mother's voice before. It sounded almost like fear. She sat. The queen was quiet for a long moment, gathering her thoughts. When she spoke, her voice was heavy with sadness. "Our people are dying, Yuna." Yuna's anger flickered. "What do you mean? We are stronger than ever. Our armies have never been larger." "Our armies, yes, but our children?" Malith shook her head slowly. "Have you noticed how few young ones there are in the capital? How many noble families have no heirs?" Now that her mother mentioned it, Yuna realized she had noticed. She had just never thought about why. "For 3,000 years, we bred ourselves for strength," Malith continued. "We chose the strongest mates, eliminated the weak, and created warriors without equal. But we made a terrible mistake. We narrowed our blood too much. Each generation is smaller than the last. Each generation has more children, born, sick, or dead. That is impossible. Our scientists would have found a solution. Our scientists have been searching for 200 years. They found only one answer. The Queen stood and walked to a console on the wall. She pressed several buttons, and a holographic display appeared in the air. Yuna saw genetic charts, medical data, population graphs that dropped year after year, and in the center of it all, a comparison between Valorian DNA and something else, human DNA. The humans are special, Malith said. Their bodies are weak. Yes, their lives are short. But their genetic code is remarkably flexible. It adapts. It changes. It survives. She pointed to the comparison chart. When Valorian and human DNA combine, something remarkable happens. The children inherit our strength, but gain their adaptability. They are not weaker than us. They are better. Yuna stared at the data. Her scientific mind could not deny what she was seeing. But her warrior's heart refused to accept it. There must be another way. There is no other way. We have tested thousands of species. Only humans are compatible enough. Only humans can save us. Malith turned off the display and faced her daughter. I was going to arrange a political marriage eventually. A carefully selected human male from their leadership. But fate moved faster than my plans. This Lieutenant Park saved your life. The blood debt gave us the perfect excuse. An excuse? You are using our laws to force this? I am using our laws to save our people. Is that not what a queen should do? Yuna had no answer. She stood there, her anger slowly transforming into something else. Despair. I do not love him, she whispered. Love is not required. Only children. Is that all I am to you? A breeding animal? For the first time, pain crossed Malith's face. She reached out and gently touched her daughter's cheek with one of her hands. You are everything to me. You are my only child, born after centuries of trying. Do you think I want this for you? Do you think it does not break my heart? Tears formed in the Queen's red eyes. But I am not just your mother. I am the Queen. I must think of all our children, not just mine. Yuna pulled away from her mother's touch. She could not process all of this. It was too much. Give me time, she said. Do not announce anything yet. The court already knows. By tomorrow, the entire empire will know. Then give me a way out. Our laws must have some exception. Malith was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. There is one way. The trial of worth. If you challenge this human to ritual combat and he loses, the blood debt transfers to combat debt instead. He would serve our house for 10 years as a soldier, rather than as your mate. That is no challenge at all. I could kill him in seconds. You cannot kill him. That would dishonor the original debt. You must simply defeat him. Make him surrender, or make him unable to fight. For the first time since this nightmare began, Yuna smiled. Then that is what I will do. Far across the city, Dohun sat in his small quarters at the human embassy, talking to a holographic image of Ambassador Kang Mirai. The ambassador was an older woman with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had served Earth's diplomatic corps for 30 years. Nothing surprised her anymore. Except this. Let me understand, she said slowly. The alien queen wants you to marry her daughter? Yes, ma'am. The princess who is their greatest warrior? Yes, ma'am. The princess who has killed more enemies than most of our entire military? Yes, ma'am. Mirai rubbed her temples. Lieutenant Park, how do you get yourself into these situations? I saved her life. I did not know there would be a blood debt. No, of course you did not. No human would. She sighed heavily. This is either the greatest diplomatic opportunity in human history, or the biggest disaster. I cannot decide which. What should I do? For now, nothing. Let me contact Earth Command. We need guidance from much higher than my position. She paused. studying his face through the hologram. "How do you feel about this, Lieutenant? Honestly?" Do-hun thought carefully before answering. "The princess clearly does not want this. And I am just a soldier. I am not qualified to be part of royal politics. If there is any way to cancel this arrangement without causing offense, I think we should take it. That is sensible. Let us hope the Valorians offer such an option." The next morning, they did. A royal messenger arrived at the embassy with official documents. Princess Yuna had invoked the Trial of Worth. Do-hun would face her in ritual combat in 3 days. If he lost, the marriage would be cancelled. Ambassador Mireille read the documents with growing concern. "This is good news and bad news," she said. "Good news. You have a way out. Bad news. You have to survive a fight against the deadliest warrior in their empire. What are the rules? No weapons, no killing. The fight ends when one side surrenders or cannot continue." She looked up at him. "Lieutenant, I have seen recordings of the princess in battle. She has defeated opponents twice her size. She has never lost in 200 fights. You cannot beat her." Do-hun nodded. "I know. Then what will you do?" He thought about it for a long moment. He thought about all the training he had received. He thought about what made humans different from other species in the galaxy. Finally, he smiled. "I will not try to beat her," he said. "I will just try not to lose." Mireille raised an eyebrow. "Is there a difference?" "I hope so," Do-hun said. "I really hope so." The Arena of Ancestors was the largest structure on Valoria Prime. It had stood for 2,000 years, carved from the bones of a mountain. Today, 50,000 Valorians filled its seats, their blue skin painted with symbols of war. They had come to watch their beloved princess crush a human. Do-hun stood at the entrance to the arena floor, wearing simple combat clothes. No armor, no weapons, just cloth and skin. He looked very small. Ambassador Mireille stood beside him, worry clear on her face. "You can still withdraw," she said. "Yes, it would cause some diplomatic problems, but at least you would live. If I withdraw, I show the entire galaxy that humans are cowards." Do-hun shook his head. "I cannot do that. Whatever happens in there, I have to try. Do you have a plan?" "Something like that." Before Mireille could ask more, drums began to thunder. The crowd roared. It was time. Do-hun walked out onto the arena floor. The sand beneath his feet was red, colored by the blood of countless battles throughout history. High above, the 3 moons of Valoria hung in the daytime sky, watching like ancient judges. Across the arena, Princess Yuna emerged from the opposite entrance. She had removed her armor and wore simple fighting clothes like Do-hun. But where he looked fragile, she looked like a goddess of war. Her muscles moved beneath her blue skin like coiled snakes. Her golden eyes locked onto him with predator focus. The crowd fell silent. A priest in ceremonial robes walked to the center of the arena. He raised his arms and spoke in a voice that echoed off the stone walls. "We gather to witness the trial of worth. Princess Yuna of House Malith has challenged the human Park Do-hun. The fight ends when one combatant surrenders or cannot continue. There shall be no killing. Let the ancestors judge who is worthy." The priest retreated. Yuna and Do-hun now faced each other alone. "You should surrender now," Yuna said. Her voice carried no anger, only certainty. "I do not wish to hurt you badly, but I will if you force me." "I appreciate the concern," Do-hun replied. "Show them what? How easily humans break." "No." Do-hun settled into a defensive stance. "How hard it is to make us quit." Yuna attacked. She moved faster than any creature Do-hun had ever seen. Her 4 arms became a blur of strikes, each one powerful enough to shatter stone. Any single hit would have ended the fight instantly. But Do-hun was not there. He had spent the last 3 days studying every recording of Valorian combat he could find. He noticed something important. Valorians were fast and strong, but they fought in patterns. They had perfected their techniques over thousands of years until every warrior moved the same way. That perfection was also a weakness. Do-hun dodged. He ducked. He rolled. He did not try to block because blocking was impossible. He simply moved. Yuna's fist passed inches from his face. Her elbow strike whistled over his head as he dropped. Her leg sweep found only empty air as he jumped. The crowd murmured in confusion. Why was the human not fighting back? Why was he just running away? Why? Why? But 1 minute became 2. 2 became 5. 5 became 10. Yuna was getting frustrated. Her attacks grew wilder, less controlled. She had never fought an opponent who simply refused to engage. Every enemy she faced before had tried to fight her. This human just kept moving. "Stand still and fight," she roared. "I am fighting," Do-hun said, breathing hard but still moving. "Just not the way you expect." 20 minutes passed. The crowd was no longer confused. They were fascinated. Some had started counting each dodge, each escape. The numbers grew higher and higher. 30 minutes. Yuna's movements were slowing. Valorians burned energy at incredible rates when they fought. Their muscles were designed for explosive power, not endurance. She was getting tired. Do-hun was tired too. His legs burned. His lungs ached. But he had something Yuna did not. He had millions of years of evolution that designed him to chase prey across endless plains until it collapsed from exhaustion. Humans did not hunt by being faster or stronger. They hunted by never, ever stopping. 45 minutes. Yuna's attacks came slower now. She was gasping for breath. Sweat poured down her blue skin. In 200 battles, she had never felt anything like this. "What are you?" she panted. "Human," Do-hun replied. His voice was strained but steady. "We are very hard to kill." 50 minutes. Yuna threw a punch that had no power behind it. Do-hun did not even need to dodge. It passed by him, and she stumbled forward, nearly falling. The crowd was absolutely silent. No one could believe what they were seeing. Yuna tried to stand straight, but her legs shook. Her forearms hung heavy at her sides. She had nothing left. "Surrender," she whispered. "Please. Just surrender." "I will not," Do-hun said. He was barely standing himself, but he was still standing. "Because I want you to understand something." He walked toward her slowly. She raised her arms to defend herself, but they fell almost immediately. "Strength is not everything," Do-hun continued. "Speed is not everything. The will to keep going when your body says stop? That is something too. And humans have a lot of that." Yuna's legs finally gave out. She collapsed to her knees in the red sand. The great warrior princess, undefeated for 200 battles, knelt before a simple human soldier. The crowd held its breath. Do-hun extended his hand to her. "I do not want to defeat you," he said gently. "I do not want to humiliate you. I just want you to see that maybe, humans have something worth respecting." Yuna looked up at his hand, then at his face. His eyes held no pride, no mockery. For a long moment, she did nothing. The entire arena waited. Then, slowly, she reached up and took his hand. He pulled her to her feet. They stood together, the human and the princess, both exhausted, both somehow still standing. The priest rushed forward, unsure what to declare. Technically, Yuna had fallen first, but the human had not claimed victory. He had not made her surrender. "What is the judgment?" someone shouted from the crowd. Yuna spoke before the priest could answer. Her voice was quiet but somehow carried across the entire arena. "There is no judgment," she said. "The trial is not over. It will never be over." She turned to look at Do-hun, and for the first time, there was something other than anger in her golden eyes. Curiosity, maybe even respect. "This human has shown worth beyond what I expected. The blood debt stands. But I will not be forced into anything." She looked at the crowd. then at the royal box, where her mother sat watching. If there is to be a union between us, it will be because we choose it, not because of laws or debts or politics. She turned back to Do-hun. You have earned the right to try, human. Whether you succeed is another matter entirely. Then, to the shock of everyone watching, Princess Yuna smiled. The arena erupted into chaos. Some cheered. Some booed. Some simply stood in stunned silence. But Do-hun barely heard any of it. He was too busy trying to understand what had just happened. He had not won. He had not lost. He had done something else entirely. He had made her curious. It was a start. The weeks after the trial changed everything. News of what happened spread across the entire Valorian Empire. A human had lasted almost an hour against Princess Yuna. A human had made her smile. These were facts that no one could have imagined before. Some Valorians were fascinated. Young warriors came to the human embassy, asking questions about human fighting styles and training methods. Scientists requested samples of human DNA for study. Artists created paintings of the famous battle, but not everyone was happy. Lord Tarek stood in his private chambers, watching the recording of the trial for the 100th time. He was a massive Valorian, even larger than most of his kind. Scars covered his blue skin, each one representing a battle he had survived. He was the commander of the Imperial fleet and the most powerful noble after the royal family. He was also furious. For 50 years, he had worked toward one goal: marrying Princess Yuna and joining his bloodline to the throne. He had won countless battles in her name. He had brought treasures from across the galaxy to lay at her feet. He had done everything right. And now a human, a tiny worthless human, was taking what should be his. This cannot stand, he growled to the shadows of his room. A figure emerged from the darkness. Lord Vex was thin where Tarek was massive, with eyes that glowed pale silver instead of gold. He was the leader of a secret faction called the Purifiers, Valorians who believed their species should remain pure and never mix with lesser races. The situation is worse than you think, Vex said quietly. My spies report that the princess has been spending time with the human. Training sessions, meals, conversations that last for hours. Conversations about what? Human culture, human history, human music, and art. Vex's voice dripped with disgust. She is becoming infected by his ideas. Tarek slammed his fist against the wall, cracking the stone. The queen has lost her mind. First, she demands this ridiculous marriage, and now she allows her daughter to be corrupted? The queen has her reasons. Reasons she has kept secret from most of the empire. Vex moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. I have learned the truth, Lord Tarek. The truth about why she wants human blood in the royal line. He told Tarek everything. The dying bloodlines. The genetic research. The desperate plan to save the Valorian species by mixing with humans. When he finished, Tarek was silent for a long moment. So we are weakening, he finally said. And her solution is to make us weaker still? To pollute our blood with these creatures? That is her solution, yes. But it does not have to be ours. What do you suggest? Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. Remove the human. Permanently. Without him, the blood debt cannot be fulfilled. The princess will be free to marry someone more appropriate. The queen will investigate. She will find out who was responsible. Not if we do it right. Accidents happen, Lord Tarek. Especially to fragile humans in a dangerous galaxy. Tarek considered this. He was not a subtle creature. He preferred to solve problems with direct force. But even he understood that killing a human under the Queen's protection required careful planning. Do it, he said. But make it clean. I want no connection to my name. Of course, my lord. You will have what you desire. And the empire will remain pure. Far across the city, Do-hun had no idea that his death was being planned. He was too busy learning. Every day, Princess Yuna came to the embassy training grounds. At first, she claimed it was to teach him proper combat techniques. But the lessons quickly became something else, entirely. "Your people have only 2 arms," Yuna said one afternoon, circling him with a training staff. "How do you fight effectively?" "We focus on what we have," Do-hun replied. 2 arms, 2 legs. We make them work together. Speed and timing instead of raw power. He demonstrated a simple combination. Punches and kicks flowing smoothly into each other. Yuna watched with intense focus. "Interesting," she admitted. "Wasteful, but interesting." In return, Do-hun asked her questions about Valorian society, their art, their music, their beliefs about the universe. "We believe strength is sacred," Yuna explained during one of their many talks. "The universe rewards the strong and destroys the weak. This is the natural order." "What about cooperation? Working together?" "That is weakness. It means you cannot succeed alone. Or it means you are smart enough to know that some problems are too big for one person." Yuna had no response to this. She spent the rest of the day thinking about it. Do-hun also learned about Yuna herself. Beneath her warrior exterior, he discovered someone lonely. She had been trained for battle since birth. She had no friends, only subordinates and rivals. She had never read a book for pleasure, never listened to music for its own sake, never done anything that was not somehow connected to fighting or ruling. One evening, Do-hun played her a piece of human music. A simple piano melody that his mother used to play when he was a child. Yuna sat completely still as the music filled the room. When it ended, she did not speak for several minutes. "This serves no purpose," she finally said. "It does not teach combat skills. It does not honor ancestors. It simply exists." "That is the point," Do-hun said. "Some things are beautiful just because they are. They do not need to serve a purpose." "That is very human," Yuna said. But her voice was not mocking. It was thoughtful. Back on Earth, Do-hun's younger sister Park Ji-won was making discoveries of her own. As a xenobiologist at Seoul University, she had received the Valorian genetic data that the Queen had released to build support for the Union. What she found was shocking. "This is impossible," she muttered, staring at her computer screen. Her assistant, a young man named Kim Tae-young, looked over her shoulder. "What is impossible?" "This DNA, Valorian and human. They are too similar." She pulled up comparison charts. Different species that evolved on different planets should have nothing in common. But this, look. These gene sequences are almost identical. What does that mean? It means either our understanding of evolution is completely wrong, or, she paused, afraid to say it out loud. Or what? Or someone put these genes in both species, deliberately, a long time ago. Ji-won began writing a message to her brother. He needed to know this. Everyone needed to know this. 2 nights later, Do-hun was walking back to his quarters after dinner with Yuna. They had talked for hours, longer than ever before. He was starting to feel something he had not expected. Not just respect for the princess, but genuine affection. He was so lost in thought that he did not notice the shadows moving behind him. The first energy blast hit him in the back. Pain exploded through his body. He fell forward, crashing into the ground. He tried to roll, tried to move, but his muscles would not respond. 2 figures emerged from the darkness, Valorians in black masks. One of them held a weapon, still smoking from the shot. "The human dies tonight," one of them said. "Lord Tarek sends his regards." The other raised a blade that glowed with deadly energy. Do-hun closed his eyes. He had survived so much. The war against the Krath. The trial of worth. But this? A knife in the dark? This was how it ended. The blade swung down and stopped. Do-hun opened his eyes to see Princess Yuna standing over him, her forearms locked around the assassin's weapon arm. Her golden eyes burned with fury that Do-hun had never seen before. "You dare," she whispered. "You dare attack him in my city?" The assassins tried to fight, but they were nothing compared to the princess. In seconds, both lay unconscious on the ground. Yuna knelt beside Do-hun. Her hands, which had crushed those attackers so easily, were gentle as they checked his wounds. "You are hurt," she said, "but you will live. How did you find me?" She paused. Something flickered in her golden eyes, something vulnerable. "I was watching you," she admitted quietly. "I have been watching you for days. I could not stop myself." Do-hun managed a weak smile despite the pain. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." Yuna did not smile. But she did not pull away either. "We have enemies," she said. "Enemies who will kill to stop this union. This is no longer just about debts and laws, Do-hun. This is war." It was the first time she had ever used his name. And somehow, despite everything, that felt like a victory. Do-hun spent 2 weeks recovering from the attack. The energy blast had damaged his spine, and even with Valorian medical technology, healing took time. He lay in a bed in the Royal Medical Center, the finest healers in the Empire caring for his wounds. Princess Yuna visited every day. At first, she claimed it was her duty. He had been attacked in her city, and she felt responsible. She would sit by his bed, reviewing military reports on her tablet, barely speaking. But as days passed, the tablet stayed in her bag longer. The conversations grew. "Tell me about Earth," Yuna said one afternoon, sitting in a chair beside his bed. She had pulled it closer than usual. "I have seen the data files, but they tell me nothing real." Do-hun thought about his home. The memories felt distant now, like dreams from another life. "Earth is beautiful and terrible," he said. "We have mountains so tall they touch the clouds, and oceans so deep we still do not know what lives at the bottom. We have forests full of life, and deserts where nothing survives." It sounds unstable, dangerous. It is. But that is why humans are the way we are. He shifted carefully in the bed, wincing at the pain. "Our planet tried to kill us constantly. Ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, other creatures that were bigger and stronger. We should have died out 100 times. But we did not. How did you survive?" "We adapted. We invented tools when our claws were not sharp enough. We built shelters when our skin was too thin for the cold. We formed groups when we were too weak alone." He smiled at her. "We are very good at refusing to die." Yuna was quiet for a moment. "Your species fascinates me," she admitted. "You are physically weak by galactic standards. Your lives are short. Your technology is young. Yet you defeated the Krath Collective when species twice your age could not. -4. We were fighting for our homes, our families. That gave us something the Krath did not expect. Desperation, hope. Desperation makes you careless." Yuna considered this. In Valorian philosophy, hope was considered a weakness. Only certainty of victory was acceptable. Yet this human's explanation made a strange kind of sense. "I have a confession," she said suddenly. Her voice was smaller than usual. "I never wanted to be a warrior." Do-hun raised an eyebrow. This was the last thing he expected to hear from the greatest fighter in the Empire. "When I was young," Yuna continued, "I wanted to be a healer. I would find injured animals and try to help them. I would study medical texts when I should have been studying combat forms." She laughed bitterly. "My mother found out. She was furious. She said, 'The royal bloodline produces warriors, not healers.' She doubled my training, pushed me harder than any student before. Eventually, I became what she wanted. But not what you wanted. What I wanted did not matter. I had a duty." Do-hun reached out and gently took one of her hands. She tensed at the contact but did not pull away. "On Earth," he said, "we have a saying. It is never too late to become what you might have been." Yuna stared at their joined hands. No one had ever touched her with such gentleness. Warriors did not comfort each other. They competed. They challenged. They certainly did not hold hands and share dreams. "You confuse me, Park Do-hun," she whispered. Every time I think I understand humans, you say something that changes everything. Is that bad? She finally looked up at his face. I do not know yet. Queen Malith watched the recording of this conversation from her private chambers. Hidden cameras throughout the medical center kept her informed of everything. She had expected political complications from this arrangement. She had not expected her daughter to fall in love. Ambassador Murray stood beside her, having been summoned for a private meeting. They seemed to be developing genuine feelings, Murray observed carefully. Yes, Malith agreed. This complicates things. Complicates? Your Majesty, this should be good news. A willing union will be stronger than a forced one. You do not understand our politics, Ambassador. Malith switched off the recording. If my daughter appears to choose a human over Valorian suitors because of emotion, it will be seen as weakness. Love is not respected here. Only strength. Ah, Peter. N2. Amen. Perhaps that needs to change. Malith gave the human ambassador a sharp look. You speak boldly. I speak honestly. Your Majesty, you created this situation to save your species, but you cannot control everything. Your daughter and Lieutenant Park are both intelligent adults. Maybe you should trust them to find their own path. The Queen was silent for a long time. Then, surprisingly, she nodded. Earth produces interesting people, bold people. A small smile crossed her ancient face. Very well, Ambassador. I will stop interfering. But I cannot control what others do. The enemies of this union are many. And they grow bolder every day. We know. The attack on Lieutenant Park proved that. That was only the beginning. Lord Tarek is gathering forces. The purifiers grow stronger. War is coming to my empire, Ambassador, and your lieutenant stands at the center of it. Back in the medical center, Do-hun had a visitor he did not expect. His sister Ji-won appeared on the holographic communicator, her face excited. I found something incredible, she said without preamble. The genetic connection between humans and Valorians goes back millions of years. Do-hun sat up straighter, ignoring the pain. What do you mean? There are gene sequences in both species that are identical. Not similar. Identical. The mathematical probability of this happening by chance is basically zero. What are you saying? Ji-won took a deep breath. I am saying that someone, some ancient civilization, deliberately seeded both Earth and Valoria Prime with the same genetic template. We share ancestors, Do-hun, not through evolution, but through design. The implications hit Do-hun like a physical blow. Humans and Valorians were not random compatible species. They were family, separated by thousands of light years and millions of years of evolution, but family nonetheless. Does anyone else know this? I have shared my findings with our Science Council. They are verifying now. But if I am right, this changes everything. The marriage is not pollution of bloodlines. It is reunion. Do-hun thought about Yuna, about her hand in his, about the way she looked at him when she thought he was not watching. Send me all your data, he said. I need to show someone. That evening, when Yuna came for her daily visit, Do-hun shared the information. She read through the genetic reports with growing amazement. This is real? She asked. You are certain? My sister is one of Earth's best xenobiologists. She would not claim this without proof. Yuna set down the tablet. Her golden eyes were wet with something Do-hun had never seen before. Tears. My whole life, she said softly. I was told that mixing blood would weaken us, corrupt us, make us less than we are. But if this is true, then we are not different species becoming one, Do-hun finished. We are one species becoming whole again. Yuna stood abruptly and walked to the window. Outside, the 3 moons were rising, casting silver light across the capital city. Do you know what I felt when I saw you injured? She asked without turning around. When I found those assassins standing over you? Tell me. Fear. Not fear of political complications. Not fear of failing my duty. She finally turned to face him. Fear of losing you. Simple, Personal fear. Do-hun carefully got out of bed. His legs were weak, but he forced them to hold him. He walked to where she stood and took both of her lower hands in his. Yuna, he said gently. I did not choose to be here. You did not choose this either. We were pushed together by laws and politics and ancient debts. But somewhere along the way, something changed for me. What changed? I stopped wanting to escape. I started wanting to stay. The princess of the Valorian Empire, undefeated in 200 battles, terror of 1,000 worlds, began to cry. I do not know how to do this, she whispered. I was never trained for this. Love is weakness. That is what I was always taught. Then let me teach you something different, Do-hun said. Let me show you that love is not weakness. It is the strength to be vulnerable with someone. To trust them with parts of yourself that you protect from everyone else. He reached up and gently wiped a tear from her blue cheek. I am choosing you, Yuna. Not because of blood debts or political arrangements. Because of who you are. The warrior who secretly wanted to heal. The princess who is brave enough to cry. Yuna closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. The wall she had built around herself, her entire life had cracked. Not broken, but cracked. And through that crack, light was beginning to shine. Then I choose you too, she said. May the ancestors forgive me. But I choose you too. Their first kiss was gentle, uncertain. The meeting of two worlds that were only beginning to understand each other. Outside, the moons continued their eternal dance across the sky. And somewhere in the shadows of the city, enemies watched and planned their final move. Lord Tarek was running out of patience. 3 months had passed since the trial of Worth. 3 months of watching the human grow closer to the princess. 3 months of seeing his dreams of power slip away. It was time for drastic action. He gathered his forces in secret. 2,000 soldiers loyal to him personally. 50 warships hidden in the outer reaches of the system. And the purifiers, fanatics who believed death was better than mixing blood with lesser species. The queen has betrayed our people, Tarek declared to his gathered army. She would pollute the royal bloodline with human filth. She would doom our children to weakness. But we will not allow this. Tonight, we strike. The plan was simple. Kidnap the human. Broadcast his execution across the empire. Challenge anyone to stop them. By the time the queen could respond, it would be too late. Lord Vex, the purifier leader, smiled his thin smile. She will mourn. Then she will move on. Once the human is dead, she will have no choice but to accept a proper Valorian mate. Tarek's massive hands clenched into fists. Me. 10. Clenchin. Tarek's. That night, Do-hun was finally released from the medical center. He was walking through the palace gardens with Yuna, enjoying the cool evening air, when the attack came. Energy blasts erupted from every direction. Palace guards fell instantly, cut down by hidden snipers. Masked soldiers swarmed from the shadows, moving with military precision. Yuna reacted immediately. She grabbed Do-hun and threw him behind a stone fountain, shielding him with her body. Her 4 arms worked furiously, deflecting energy blasts with a personal shield generator she always wore. Stay down, she shouted. There are too many, Do-hun shouted back. He was right. Soldiers surrounded them from all sides. Yuna was the greatest warrior in the empire, but even she could not fight an army alone. A familiar figure stepped through the chaos. Lord Tarek, wearing battle armor decorated with conquest symbols. His 4 arms holding weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Princess, he said with mock respect. Please step aside. I have business with the human. You will have to kill me first. That can be arranged if necessary. But I would prefer not to harm you. Once this creature is dead, you will see reason. You will understand that I am trying to save our people. Yuna stepped forward, placing herself directly between Tarek and Do-hun. You are just another ambitious fool who cannot accept rejection. Tarek's face twisted with rage. Take them both, he commanded. The soldiers advanced. Yuna fought with everything she had, her fists and feet moving in deadly patterns. She took down 5, 10, 15 attackers. But they kept coming. Stun blasts hit her from multiple angles. Finally, even she could not stand. She collapsed beside Do-hun, both of them captured. They woke in a cell deep underground. Do-hun's hands were bound with energy restraints. Yuna was held in a specialized containment field that even her strength could not break. Are you hurt? I am fine. Angry, but fine. She tested her restraints again, growling in frustration. These fields are military grade. I cannot break them. Tarek has been planning this for a long time. Yes. And my mother walked right into his trap by not acting against him sooner. Yuna's golden eyes burned with fury. When I get out of here, I will tear him apart with my bare hands. Hours passed. Then Lord Vex came to visit. The broadcast will begin soon, he told them through the cell bars. The entire empire will watch your human die, princess. They will see that our people still have the strength to protect their bloodline. None. They will see a coward murdering a prisoner. Yuna spat. Where is the honor in that? Honor is for fools. Survival is what matters. And humans threaten our survival more than any enemy we have ever faced. Vex leaned closer. Not through war, but through corruption, through their ideas of love and cooperation and weakness. Your human has already infected you, princess. But the disease will be cured tonight. He left them alone again. Do-hun leaned his head against the cold wall. I am sorry, he said quietly. Sorry for what? For all of this. If I had just let that assassin kill you at the festival, none of this would have happened. Do not be stupid. Yuna's voice was sharp, but not angry. If you had not saved me, I would be dead. And I would never have known. Known what? She was quiet for a moment. I would never have known that there was another way to live. That strength is not the only thing that matters. That I could be more than just a weapon for my mother's empire. You are so much more than that, Yuna. You always were. I know that now. Because of you. The cell door suddenly opened. Guards rushed in and dragged Do-hun to his feet. Lord Tarek stood in the doorway, satisfaction on his scarred face. It is time, human. The entire empire is watching. Any last words? Do-hun looked back at Yuna. Her eyes were desperate, tears streaming down her blue cheeks. She strained against her restraints with all her strength. But they held. I love you, Do-hun said to her. Whatever happens, remember that. Take him, Tarek commanded. They dragged Do-hun away while Yuna screamed his name. The broadcast arena was a massive chamber designed for public executions. Screens on every surface showed the feed being transmitted across the empire. Millions of Valorians were watching. Tarek stood at a podium, addressing the cameras. People of the empire, I speak to you tonight as a true Valorian. Our queen has betrayed us. She would give our princess to a human, polluting the royal bloodline with inferior genes. But we, the defenders of our heritage, will not allow this corruption. He gestured, and guards brought Do-hun forward. They forced him to his knees in the center of the arena. This human will die tonight, Tarek continued. And his death will remind the galaxy that Valoria bows to no one. We do not mix with lesser species. We do not weaken ourselves with foreign blood. We remain pure. He drew a ceremonial blade that crackled with energy. Any last words, human? Do-hun looked up at him with calm eyes. Despite everything, he was not afraid. You are afraid, Do-hun said. His voice was quiet but somehow carried across the chamber. Not of me. Of what I represent. That your children might be better than you. To prevent her. Do better. That the galaxy might move forward, while you stay frozen in the past. I am afraid of nothing. Then why do you need an army to kill one unarmed human? Do-hun smiled. You talk about strength, but you are the weakest person I have ever met. Truly, strong people do not fear change. They welcome it. Tarek raised his blade, fury consuming his face. The arena doors exploded inward. Princess Yuna stood in the smoking entrance, her containment field clearly destroyed by brute force that should have been impossible. Behind her stood an army, but not soldiers in matching uniforms. These were young Valorians, some barely adults, carrying whatever weapons they could find. Impossible, Tarek whispered. How did you escape? You underestimated human influence, Yuna said. Her voice rang with power. You thought it made me weak, but it taught me something you will never understand. Desperation is weakness. Hope is strength. She had wanted to escape with every fiber of her being. She had hoped with the intensity humans showed when facing extinction. And somehow, that hope had given her strength beyond anything she had known before. Soldiers, Tarek shouted. Stop them! But his soldiers hesitated. Half of them were looking at the young Valorians behind Yuna. Their brothers. Their sisters. Their children. You do not have to follow him. Yuna called out to them. The Empire does not have to stay frozen in the past. We can grow. We can change. We can become something better. She pointed at Do-hun. This human showed me that. Not through tricks or manipulation, but through kindness, through patience, through love. One by one, soldiers began lowering their weapons. Traitors! Tarek screamed. All of you! Traitors! He spun toward Do-hun, raising his blade for a killing strike. Yuna moved faster than light. She crossed the arena in an instant, her fist connecting with Tarek's face with the force of a meteor. He flew backward, crashing through a wall, and did not get up. Silence fell over the arena. Yuna knelt beside Do-hun and gently removed his restraints. Her hands were shaking, not from exertion, but from relief. I told you, she whispered. I choose you. Do-hun pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Across the Empire, millions of Valorians watched. Some were angry, some were confused. But many, especially the young, felt something they had never felt before. Hope. The wedding of Princess Yuna and Lieutenant Park Do-hun was the largest celebration in Valorian history. Ships came from across the galaxy, carrying representatives from 100 different species, even the elder races. Beings so ancient they rarely noticed younger civilizations, sent observers. Everyone wanted to witness this moment. The ceremony took place in the crystal gardens of the royal palace, where flowers made of living light bloomed in colors that had no names. 10,000 guests filled the viewing platforms. Billions more watched the broadcast across human and Valorian space. Earth sent a delegation led by Ambassador Kang Mire, who had worked tirelessly to make this day possible. She stood among the guests with tears in her eyes, proud of the young soldier who had somehow changed the course of galactic history. Do-hun's sister Ji-wan was there too, her research on human Valorian genetics now famous throughout the scientific community. Her discovery that both species shared ancient ancestors had transformed the conversation about the union. This was not pollution of bloodlines, it was reunion. Family coming back together after millions of years apart. Do-hun waited at the altar, wearing a uniform that combined human military dress with Valorian ceremonial elements. He was nervous. His hands kept wanting to adjust his collar, but when he looked at the gathered crowd, at the friends he had made on both worlds, then the music began, and Yuna appeared. She walked down the aisle in armor, because she was still a warrior even on her wedding day. But this armor was different. Instead of symbols of conquest, it was decorated with flowers and stars and images of Earth and Valoria together. She had designed it herself, wanting to honor both traditions. Her golden eyes found his across the distance. She smiled, and Do-hun felt his nervousness disappear completely. Queen Malith stood at the altar to perform the ceremony. In the months since Tarek's failed rebellion, she had changed. The crisis had forced her to look honestly at her empire and herself. She had expected obedience from her daughter. She had received something better, a partner who was willing to challenge her when she was wrong. "We gather today to witness a union unlike any in our history," Malith began, her voice carrying across the gardens. "For 3,000 years, the Valorian Empire measured worth through strength and conquest. We believed mixing with other species would weaken us, diminish us, make us less than we were." She paused, looking at her daughter and the human who stood beside her. "We were wrong." Murmurs rippled through the Valorian sections of the crowd. The Queen, admitting error, was unprecedented. This human taught us something we had forgotten. True strength is not just physical power. It is the courage to change, the wisdom to admit mistakes, the capacity to love even when love makes you vulnerable. Malith stepped forward and took one of Yuna's hands and one of Do-hoon's. "My daughter is not diminished by choosing this man. She is enhanced. And our empire is enhanced by welcoming humans into our family." She joined their hands together. "The old ways told us that different species must remain separate. But we have learned that we are not truly different. Millions of years ago, an ancient civilization planted the seeds of both our peoples. We are branches of the same tree, reaching toward the same stars. And today, those branches finally intertwine." The Queen stepped back. "Princess Yuna, do you take this human as your partner, your equal, and your love?" "I do," Yuna said. Her voice was strong and certain. "Lieutenant Park Do-hoon, do you take this Valorian as your partner, your equal, and your love?" "I do," Do-hoon said. "Then, by the laws of the Valorian Empire and the principles of Earth, I declare you united. 2 hearts, 2 worlds, 1 future." Yuna pulled Do-hoon into a kiss that lasted long enough to make some of the older Valorian nobles uncomfortable. The crowd erupted into cheers. The celebration that followed lasted 7 days. Valorian warriors sparred with human soldiers, teaching each other techniques. Diplomats from both species discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Scientists shared research on everything from medicine to starship design. Musicians created new songs that blended human melodies with Valorian rhythms. And through it all, Do-hoon and Yuna stayed close together, still amazed that they had found each other. "What happens now?" Do-hoon asked her one evening, as they watched fireworks paint the sky with light. "Now we build something new," Yuna replied. "Not human, not Valorian." 1 year later, they welcomed their daughter into the world. They named her Hana, which meant one in Korean, and flower in both human and Valorian languages. She was small, smaller than a pure Valorian baby would have been, but her grip was strong, and her eyes, gold like her mother's, sparkled with intelligence. Scientists studied her with wonder and respect. She had 4 arms, like a Valorian, but the endurance patterns of a human. Her immune system combined the best of both species, resistant to diseases that killed either parent race. Her brain showed neural pathways that neither species possessed alone, suggesting cognitive abilities that were entirely new. She was not weaker than either parent. She was stronger than both. "She will change everything," Ji-won said, watching her niece sleep in Do-hoon's arms. "Not just genetically, philosophically. She is proof that the universe rewards cooperation over competition. That together, we become more than we could ever be apart." Do-hoon looked down at his daughter. He remembered the day Queen Malith had given her command. "You will marry my daughter and give me strong grandchildren." At the time, it had seemed like a trap, a prison sentence from which there was no escape. Now he understood that it had been a gift. Not the command itself, but what came from it. The chance to know Yuna. The opportunity to bridge 2 worlds. The daughter who would help lead both species into a future brighter than either could have imagined alone. "What are you thinking?" Yuna asked, sitting beside him on the balcony of their home. "About how everything started," Do-hoon said. Your mother's command. The blood debt. All the ways we tried to escape this arrangement. And now? Now I would not change any of it. Every struggle, every fight, every moment of fear. It all led to this. He held up their daughter, watching the moonlight play across her blue skin. It led to her. Yuna leaned her head against his shoulder. For a moment, she was not a princess or a warrior. She was just a mother, tired and happy and full of love. My people have a saying, she said quietly. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. I never understood it before. I thought it meant we should seek out hardship, create struggle where none exists. And now? Now I understand. The fire is not something we choose. It is something life gives us. Our strength comes from surviving it together. She kissed his cheek. You are my strength, Park Do-hun. You and Hana. You are my fire and my steel and my home. The 3 moons of Valoria rose slowly into the night sky, casting silver light across the sleeping city. Somewhere below, young Valorians and humans worked together, building ships that would explore the galaxy. Scientists from both species collaborated on research that would benefit everyone. Artists created works that blended traditions into something entirely new. The future had arrived, and it looked like hope. Hana woke and began to cry, hungry for attention. Yuna took her from Do-hun's arms and began to sing a lullaby. It was a human song, one that Do-hun's mother had sung to him when he was a child. Yuna had learned it months ago, determined to honor both halves of her daughter's heritage. Do-hun listened to his wife sing, watching his daughter slowly fall back asleep. He thought about all the improbable events that had led to this moment. The assassination attempt, the trial of Worth, the kidnapping and rescue, the wedding and the birth. So many chances for everything to go wrong. So many moments where he could have given up, but he had not. Humans never did. And now, because of that stubbornness, that endless human refusal to quit, the galaxy would never be the same. Some commands, Do-hun thought, as sleep began to take him, turn out to be the greatest gifts of all. The moons continued their slow journey across the sky. The stars burned bright and eternal. And in a small room in a crystal palace, a family that should have been impossible slept peacefully together, dreaming of all the tomorrows yet to come.